All right, welcome to the Stramaglio Show. We are happy to have you with us again. Once again, we appreciate your subscribing and watching all the videos. We have, no pun intended, I've been waiting to do this for weeks now, a bonus show, a real bonus show. How'd I do, Howard?
You did great. Not unique, but you did great.
So let me introduce you to a good friend. His name is Howard Bonus. So hence the double entendre there. Welcome to the show, Howard. And we're going to have a little bit of fun today. You ready?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm ready.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to put the burden on you to introduce yourself. You are an executive with the Lagelangen, and otherwise known as DLL. So, Howard, if you don't mind, introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you do and how are things going.
Sure. My name is Howard Bonus. I have worked at DeLagelangen for the last 20 years. For the last, I'd say 10 years, most of my focus has been really a global approach. How do we grow what I'm calling workplace globally? So we're in 22 countries. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of different places, and what they do in one country is different than what they do in another country. So it's been a very challenging, exciting opportunity. For the last month, for those people who don't know, Shannon Stengel has retired. And so I've been asked to be in this interim position, taking over the country sales management position. So I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. That focus is very US specific within what we'll call workplace. So it's the evolution of office equipment into what we'll call a workplace. And that just that involves a lot more. It's much more specific. It's obviously very US bound, but it's really this evolution of how we go from print to this other workplace in this non-print territory. And I think that's really the why I'm so excited to be part of the consortium and ECS, is because I think what we're trying to do is very aligned to what this group is trying to do. And so it's really this exploration of where, what's next. And so that's really what my focus is.
So thank you for that introduction, Howard. And of course, we wish Shannon much good health, prosperity, and a fun future in her retirement. And you mentioned the consortium. She has been a tremendous advocate and contributor for the group. And obviously, DLL has been a great supporter for our Executive Connection Summit. So, Shannon, we wish you well and have a happy retirement. Although I wonder if you're going to be able to not do much. So that's just my speculation. So Howard, given your background, how long did you say you were with DLL?
I've been with DLL for 20 years.
20 years. And during those 20 years, have you always been located in the U.S., even though you had a global job?
I happen to live 3 miles from here, but I lived from our office, but I lived there before I even started working with DLL. So yes, always been in the area, always been in the corporate office. So yes.
So, given your experience with DLL and now your recent, introduction to the consortium and all the things that we're doing, what is your first takeaway from what we're doing now that you're immersed in the consortium? What were your first thoughts about what we're trying to do?
Um, I re-listened to the Brad Nepper podcast right before this, just to make sure that I understood. Listening to him, we are very aligned if we think of what we want to do at DLL, and I think across all of the finance companies, and what Brad was speaking about in reference to how do we go from the printer, the copier, into this new evolving space of technology. And what are the challenges? What are the products? How do we help monetize what you're doing? How can we help you grow? So that's really the exciting part of listening to what our dealers are trying to do and how we can connect and align with that. Because it's, this is going to be new for a lot of the finance companies also, is, how are you going to market? And is there going to be specialists within the IT team, or is it going to be one team? And exactly what he was saying around senior people, like the young people, they'll gravitate really easily into the technology space because that's what they grew up with. But what is how do you work with your more senior members who have been with our company for 20, 25 years? And how do we bring them along also? Because they have really strong relationships, but it's very focused to, here's what's happened over the last 25 years. Here's what works the best. But, we're in a different place now. So how do we move them and grow them with us?
And so when you take that a little bit further, I remember 3 years ago or so, we were helping Microsoft launch AI into our channel. And I remember clearly during the summit, people coming up to me and saying, "What is this? Why do I need to know this? What am I going to do with it? How do I sell it? How do I make money?" And of course, 3 4 years later, AI is part. It's a big run-on sentence, so you cannot take it back, right? I mean, it's here, it's big. So, what do you think DLL is going to be doing, if you are already doing anything with artificial intelligence? And where do you personally see the marketplace going forward with some of these technologies like AI?
Yeah, great question. AI is, we use AI and robotics sometimes interchangeably within the same words. And I think in a lot of cases, you need to do both things. Today, AI is really being focused on how do we take old processes and make them better. It's less about what's coming up new. It's more about how do we take older things and build more efficiency and enhance the experience that way. So we're doing a lot around, customer service calls and robotics around documentation and how do we speed up funding a transaction using different type of robotics or AI? What do you do with customer lists? With, is there a way to better function of reducing the list? So there's a lot of things. We're doing a lot of training to our own people of how you can use Copilot and how do we make that faster? Not just to make emails better or more efficient, but what are all the things you can do to look at things different, to take spreadsheets and build them out, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of things that we're doing. There's a lot of things that our dealers are using that same AI capacity on customer lists. I mean, you can take who's going to be in a conference and you can just snip that from a website, put it into some AI or Copilot, and they can give you the volume and the revenue and the type of business they're in. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. So now what we have to figure out is how do we take that AI piece and the already print portfolio that our dealers have, and how do you combine those together so that you can grow your customer base, which is, I think, what a lot of our dealers are looking to do.
I love that summary. When you think about 2025, right, coming out of 24, I don't even want to go back to COVID, but you come out of 24 and we're coming into 25. Hard to believe it is November coming up right here real quick. Did 25 meet your expectation, your personal expectations, and how do you view our business in general coming now towards the end of the year? Do you think your business is good? Do you think that it's exciting? Do you see a strong finish? What are your thoughts?
I do find it exciting. I mean, it can always be better. So when somebody says, well, how do you feel about this year? It's easy to look back and, okay, what could we have done better? How do we need to be different in 2026? So in that case, I'll go, okay, there's a lot of areas we need to improve in. The challenges and opportunities are so exciting as we move forward because, first of all, just being able to, the unknown is always exciting, but there's so much that we need to learn from our dealers, both directionally, how are they evolving, but then what are the products and tools they need to grow their business? And so now we get to meet with if I think of what our number one goal is for, I'll say the next quarter, is to meet with our dealers and talk to them about what their evolution is, what's that speed look like, and then what are the products that they're going to need in order to do that. Because one of the things that everybody's looking at is how do I grow their IT infrastructure? There's a cost to do that. So how are the finance companies, how are we going to help monetize that so they can grow faster? Because you can do it as a sort of a monthly subscription, pass through, those types of things. But in order to build some infrastructure, you need money today. So how do you put that, like, how do you monetize that so that you can provide currency so they can go faster?
It's interesting you bring that up because I think the whole narrative about IT services over the last 18 months has improved dramatically. And there are probably numerous reasons for that, not the least of which is technology and diversification. But I'm kind of curious when you look at the MSP world, and I'll give you a rough picture of what I'm thinking. When you look at the MSP world, there are roughly 14,000 MSP companies out there in the United States, and they're generating a tremendous amount of revenue profit. In our core copier print world, there are roughly, call it 2,000 dealers, and I would suggest it's probably less, out of which maybe 200 to 300 are contributing the greater percentage of the business. So we're looking at, through the consortium and the summit, this convergence, I mean, very accelerated level of convergence. Is that something you're seeing and studying from the DLL perspective?
Yeah, it is the perfect fit of the 80-20 rule. I mean, 80% of our business comes from 20% of our dealers. And that is, I mean, you can put that stat down right down the line of how our business runs. And so it's very interesting, not only the consolidation, but where are dealers, where are they taking risk or where are they looking to grow? Because and when I say risk, I'm thinking of like, where are people being bold? And whenever you're bold or taking risks, it's that you have both success and failure. You have to let yourself fail in order to succeed, but you've got to like quickly make changes as you go through it. And the ones that are more bold are the ones that we see being more successful. And that fits right into that, who are the top dealers? That's that 80-20 rule.
So I'm curious, Howard, if you would agree with this thought or comment. From my perspective, this is the first very clear, I think, time in our channel's history where the end user client is far more sophisticated than our ability to be able to deliver. And be it AI agents or whatever number of other things they're doing. Do you agree with that thought?
Yeah, I do agree that they are they're being forced to drive efficiencies, and there's a huge amount of money that's being spent on AI, robotics, etc. And we don't have, if you think of our community, we don't have the resources or the training yet to be able to develop what does that talk track look like and where's our value add. So the answer is yes, I do believe that they're much faster. And to go along with that, I was just reading some of the IDC predictions that came out. And one of their predictions were that 40% of all organizations by 2028 are going to pick one company to do both their print and IT. They're not going to want two different companies. They're going to want one company to be able to handle both. That gives us time. I mean, that gives us a couple years to get there. So that's a good thing. But that's really where this evolution and the speed of change is really catching up to us.
I hadn't heard that number. That's a great number. I'll steal that from you. That's actually incredible.
It's a really big number, but I think that if you think about it, in a lot of the companies, and you'll see it at ECS, right? You'll have those owners that are already starting to do that. And if you talk to them, they're already going, okay, I have this portfolio, I have these relationships that I've had for years. Then how can I take advantage of that relationship? Not, I'm sorry, advantage is the wrong word. How do I use that portfolio to grow other pieces of my business? And so they actually work really well together.
Well, it's interesting because basically what you're suggesting, or IDC is suggesting, is that people no longer see the difference between a network and everything that's hanging on it. So to them, it's a service, regardless of the feature set.
Yeah, if you think of all the economic things that are changing, whether it be tariffs or sanctions, where cost of these types of items are going up, one of the cost reduction is going to be, I mean, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't already know, but if you can move a print solution into more of an imaging IT solution, then you're going to reduce cost for the organization, but you're going to increase the opportunity for our dealers. So it's sort of that good and bad thing that we all know is happening, but there's opportunity there.
Well, it's unbelievably exciting, and the opportunity is almost it's a cornucopia of prosperity if you really think about it. And when you look at DLL, so when the industry thinks about DLL, what is it that you want the industry to be thinking about DLL going forward? What changes are you going to be making, and or any other thoughts you may have in that regard?
Yeah, I think one of the good things, our diversity as a company, we've always been, while we want to be specialized in these segments, so we have a specialized group of people that work in the workplace, we also have a very strong specialization within technology. So technology is nothing new to us. We have a really large, our global technology business is actually larger than our global workplace business. So this is not anything new. What's new is how do you put the two things together? How do you take the skill sets of the people we have on technology and the skill sets of relationships that we have in workplace? How do we put those two groups of people together and all the other learnings and knowledge and lessons, all that kind of stuff? How do you put those together to have a more improved team? And I think that's really our evolution, along with our dealers' evolution, is that we look at the same things that they do. We go, okay, wait a minute. The technology people that we hired have a very specific skill set that they're really good at. Our workplace people are really good at relationships and building those out over the long term. Those are two really good skills that you're going to need to grow it. And we have it in house. So now how do we best use it?
Is there a corporate mission statement or philosophy that DLL promotes inside the organization?
Um, I would say the philosophy is this: is that we want to be segmented or specialized, but we know that we need to evolve with our business. And so philosophy is that when we talk about AI, I want to make sure that we are driving enhanced customer service while building efficiencies. Let's don't do it the other way around. We don't want to drive efficiencies as our first priority. If we're able to drive better customer service, enhance that experience for our dealers and for our lessees, the byproduct of that will be that you'll drive efficiencies. And you can get very cloudy in that. Like, hey, we need to save cost. No, you need to enhance the experience. And if you do that, you will save cost.
I love that answer. The danger always is losing the touchy feely important part of building relationships, and people get attracted by the shiny thing, right?
Right. If you drive better data integrity and you drive speed, then you will save money. But really, what you'll do is you'll have a better experience. So I think that's really the philosophy and the focus.
So I want to change a little bit, and I want to come back a little bit again to DLL because I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to share your view of DLL's impact, past and future, but a little bit more personal. So if I ask your best friend, someone you've known a long time, hey, you've known Howard a long time. What do you love about the guy, and what drives you nuts about the guy? What would they say?
We'll start with the driving nuts. I can be a little sarcastic or cynical, and so that can take every time you say something, regardless of what it is, there's a small piece of truth in it. It may be somewhat humorous, but there's always a little bit of truth to it. So I think that's what would probably drive them a little crazy. I think the good thing is I'm super, as my wife would say, that a bomb could go off in the room and nothing would wake me up. I'm not one of those, I'm super calm. I'm not going to get really stressed out. I'm very pragmatic in that um, I can take a step back from things and really have a pretty good perspective of it. So I think that's probably one of the things that people would say are one of my strong qualities.
So calm, attentive, thoughtful, all those really good things.
As long as I'm not playing a sport, that's all true. The minute I'm on the golf course or playing tennis, then all that's thrown out the window. But at work and at home, the answer is yes.
So competitive rage.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. It's a nice balance. It works. And you might want to park the snark a little bit more. All right. So going back to the industry and DLL. So what are your expectations as DLL turning the corner on this particular year? And are you looking at a significant growth pattern in 26? What are your thoughts?
So in 2026, if I my expectations are is that we will continue to evolve this concept of print, and I'll call it print and non-print, and that we will, by the time you get to the end of the 2026, not only have we learned more about the business, but we'll see an increase in our non-print business. And when I say an increase, it's both within our current dealers, but then slightly outside of our dealers as to learn more about that. Like we've been very focused on cybersecurity and security and access control and robotics and drone, etc. A lot of what you'll hear from our print dealers is that you'll hear a lot of those things, hey, they're very interested in. I would expect by the end of 2026, we would see a larger incremental growth than we saw in 2025. We grew our non-print business with those same dealers. I think you'll see a higher number go up, a higher volume number go up, because you're just going to, the expansion is going to get quicker.
Well, I agree with you on that. And we're going to see a whole bunch of that at the Executive Connection Summit with everything from robotics to quantum computing. I think it's going to be explosive. So when you think about yourself and as a successful leader, working for a very reputable firm for many years, what counsel, what advice do you give to the young people or the younger dealers who are now coming up in our industry? What's the best advice you could give these young folks?
Listen to people who have both succeeded. There's a number, when you go to ECS, there's going to be people that have been super successful in this technology print market. And you're going to hear a couple things. You're going to hear, here's how it worked for us. Here's what we learned along the way. And here's what made us successful. So listen to what made people successful, but just as importantly, listen to the failures or obstacles they had to overcome to get there. You have to learn something from the past. You can't just forget about what's happened previous and where we made mistakes and what didn't work. Those are really important nuggets to learn. Well, how do we overcome them? How do we motivate our people? But also, hey, wait a minute, this worked. Let's try to replicate that. And I think you can learn so much more from all the people that have done both those pieces than you'll ever get from either blindly going into it or reading something from a book. Learn from the people that are already around you.
Excellent advice. And now the follow-up question, how closely aligned is that to the mentoring advice that you received as a young person coming into DLL or the industry?
Um, Good question. It's pretty close. I mean, my dad. I grew up in the restaurant business, so my dad worked, 100 hours a week, was off on Mondays and Tuesdays, and so I learned a lot about both. I mean, if you think about the restaurant business, you can serve the same food to five people. Two of them love it, two of them hate it, one of them doesn't care, and so you really learn to listen to people and sort of like and make changes along the way. And so that's the one things that I take back from growing up is really listening. and then making changes along the way of, well, how do I then improve it?
So when you think back on your life, and that's obviously an interesting contrast between what you just shared with people coming in and what how you grew up. Who was your greatest mentor in business?
My I learned a lot from a lot of different people. I worked with a man when I was with a medical supply company, physician sales and service. His name was Doug Harper. And we bought his company, and he taught me a lot about just taking a step back and listening to people, and not reacting to everything that happens, but really either thinking through and prioritizing. And I think I said to you, Mike, when we first did an introduction, this idea of being a mile wide and an inch deep. And what I said is I want to be deeper, not wider. And so one of the things that Doug taught me was this concept of like prioritization and really focus in on what you want to do versus trying to be everything to everybody, or trying to make everybody happy. It was really making sure that you focus in on what you're doing.
And this was who again? You want to
His name
mention
was
his?
Doug Harper, and it was with a medical supply company. I worked for a physician sales and service for 10 years, which is the largest medical supply company in the U.S. at the time.
Wow, good advice. And of course, working in a restaurant or helping your father and your family in a restaurant, I can't imagine a more demanding and probably stressful, stressful business to be in. So that had to teach you a whole bunch.
You know what you learn is you learn hard work, and you learn how to go for like getting through each day. But I worked with my family. I mean, my mom worked there, my sister worked there, my dad worked there. There was a lot of family dinners at the restaurant, so we had a pretty close knit family, and it was pretty cool growing up that way.
All right. So was it an Italian restaurant? I hope.
It wasn't. It was actually there's a restaurant in Chicago called My Pie, geometric sign pie. So deep dish pizza. And so there was only 12 of them in the United States. My dad had 3 of them in Oklahoma.
Very cool. So I'll take that. All right. So little as we come to the conclusion here, as we turn the final corner here for the podcast, um, what are you most proud of? And I'll characterize that in business. So unless there's anything else you want to share with us, but in your career so far, what are what do you say? Hey, that was good. I did that good.
One of the things that we did probably about 8 years ago, we started this concept of Generation Next at the time. And it was this idea of how do you take um, kids right out of college and you train them as a salesperson. And so we originally hired 10 people. And like I said, a lot of people that just come out of school don't always get jobs immediately in sales. You always ask, well, what does their resume look like? What does their successes in sales look like? I mean, these are people who didn't necessarily have specific sales experiences. And we ended up doing, I'll say, 5 different groups of them. Now, this lasted 3 to 5 years. And we built a whole group in Jacksonville, Florida, of these Gen Next groups. And I thought that was a really cool opportunity to do something. And we worked in Florida State has one of the largest sales competition. There's a whole degree program at Florida State, but there's like 80 colleges that go to the sales competition in Orlando, Florida, once a year, and they do role playing, they do speed selling, and they do case studies. And it's so awesome to listen to these kids that have learned everything through school, learned the whole sales process. Colleges now have sales degree programs, and you can learn a lot from them. So it was a great opportunity, and it's something that I'm proud of. I happen to work with Shannon Stengel on it, but we got a lot out of it.
That's a great accomplishment. That's something to be proud of. Helping young folks and inspiring them and providing a path for them. That's about as good as it gets. So, Howard, Yeah, I know the much anticipated question is now going to hit you. Your favorite Frank Sinatra song?
Well, this one's going to probably have been used before. My wife grew up in New York. And I love the electricity of New York. I don't necessarily want to live there because I can't, like, you got to make a ton of money to do everything I'd want to do. But I think listening to New York on New Year's or etc. is I I don't know that I actually realized it was a Frank Sinatra song until I actually knew that you were going to ask the question. But I think that is it's by far my favorite. It's my favorite Frank Sinatra song, but I also just love hearing it about New York.
Well, it's a phenomenal song, and the Yankees love it, and of course, it's Frank Sinatra, so he crushes it. So, with that, Howard, I'm going to ask you: is there anything else you would like to share with the audience before we go to New York?
I think the one thing I want to show you, we'll be reaching out to you. If you don't reach out to me, I am really interested in understanding how you're going to evolve as we move into 2026. It's really important for DLL and for myself to understand how we can align with you all, how we can help grow your business. We'll learn something, you'll learn something. But I think if I thought of what is our number one initiative for this end of Q4, beginning Q1, that's hey, we need to fund and book a lot of transactions. We need to make sure that we're in front of our dealers, understanding where they're going, so that we are going in parallel with them. So that's what I'll leave you with, is that please feel free to reach out to me, or I'll be reaching out to you because I'm really interested in this.
Well, thank you very much for that opportunity. Of course, I have a very long relationship with DLL. It's always an honor to work with everyone over there. This has been a special honor getting to know you a little bit more. And we're not that far away from ECS and the consortium meeting, so we'll look forward to working together again. And I'll leave everybody with start spreading the news. Thank you, Howard. Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.